everything with the crash parts is done, right?
Yes, as far as I know, until the next substitute comes.
Right.
And I can't control that.
Yeah.
Do you need a test check?
I'm testing right now.
Oh, yeah, because we're gonna use, there's a lavalier.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna give her the lavalier.
Yeah, that should be fine. I'm just gonna go off my mic because I don't have
Okay.
much of a way to connect it. That's the case unless there's an extra receiver somewhere. But if she's coming through a speaker, I think it should be.
Yeah, so we figured out how to turn on the lavalier.
Oh, sweet. Cool. How's it going, Marcus?
Good. You?
Going good.
How you been?
Doing good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm working on that video outline, so I should have something for you soon.
That's awesome.
Get moving on it. Sorry for the delay in that.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We're excited to do it. Wow. I came early to grab a seat. I heard there's a lot of people showing up for this thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's some of the last that ever really stuff that fell right after Christmas. Just barely, I think, on the stuff that's not.
Yeah, I've been here for about 2 years, and I still don't know the umbrella.
Yeah.
I'm resistant.
Carrie has a talisman that doesn't rain for you.
Yeah.
And I was from like.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And so I worked here for Dan.
But,
Yeah, or to prevent.
but
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, so wait, go and take this order off of this one. Not yet, but like, you should take it individually, like, because I could come here working to see if you
No matter what you do, I'm hardwired right now too. Still like a few seconds late. I'm plugged in, so I think it's just live streaming in general. There's always issues there, but I'm recording now.
No, we're serious. Listening from choose from
I can run this. So like stand up and then she's like, yes.
Good morning, everyone. This is going to be short. I think we want to want to hear. So I want to thank you, first of all, for coming to this presentation, which I think when you leave here, you will have a truly different perspective on patient safety. We brought in a good friend of mine, Sorrel. Most of you have heard of her. She definitely has a story that we all want to hear. Sorrel comes to us as a family member, if you will, of that community involvement and within safety, quality of safety. I do want to put a little bit of a plug in for, we have a request to help us get membership in a patient and family advisory council, is it right? For ambulatory clinics. So each of you, when you leave, please get one of these, well, it's not pamphlet, it's a little document here. It talks about membership in that. Take a look at it. If you're interested, there's contact information here. Pass it on to other folks that you might feel would be interested. Because having our patients and our family members involved in our process is very important. So without ado, what I'd like to do is introduce to you Sorrel King. This is Patient Safety Month for our organization. So we have selected Sorrel King to come in and be our keynote speaker. So Sorrel, you want to come up?
Thank you guys for taking the time out of your very busy day to come hear me share this story. I flew in last night and lots of interesting things happened. Saw someone get hit by a car and stayed in the hotel that used to be a hospital and had a terrific tortilla sandwich for breakfast here at the hospital. Went to some great meetings, walked around the hospital. All in all, I can say that I have a good vibe about this hospital. You can just pick up on energy. People seem happy. People seem enthusiastic. So I'm really honored to be here with all of you all this morning. Happy Patient Safety Month. Happy Patient Safety Week. In the years past, I never really understood Patient Safety Week. And it used to sometimes annoy me, like that one week where, the patient safety posters and the projects and the bowls of candy, luring people to come learn about patient safety. And as a mother whose daughter died from medical errors, and as this patient safety advocate or whatever it is I've become over all these years, it used to annoy me because to me, Patient Safety Week is every week. Patient Safety Day is every day, every month. But the way I kind of approach it now and the way I kind of look at it now is that I believe Patient Safety Week is that time where we push the pause button. We reflect on what we have done in the past year as far as patient safety and culture goes. And we push the pause button and then we look to where we all want to go on this journey. So today, I hope to be part of the pause button. I want you guys to relax. I want you guys to kick back. And I'm going to share a story with you. I've been telling this story for a really, really long time. I traveled all over the country, big hospitals, little hospitals, big patient safety conferences, medical schools, nursing schools, trains and airplanes, and I hate flying, and I will be drinking a Bloody Mary on my way back to Baltimore 2 flights later tonight. It's a lot of travel. It's exhausting. It's stressful. I have to leave my kids. I have to miss soccer games. I miss lacrosse games. I once missed my son's birthday. And I'm 53, and when you turn 50, you have a midlife crisis. And when I turned 50, I decided, you know what, I'm not doing this healthcare industry stuff anymore. I've been doing this long enough. I'm tired. I'll do something else. I'll do something that's more relaxing. I'll work at the boutique folding sweaters down the road from where I live. My hair's fake blonde, it's gray, and that's because of you people in the healthcare industry have slowly been killing me. But every time I get on that airplane to go to that one last hospital to tell this story one last time, I come home at the end of the day and I turn on my computer and little emails trickle in. in the email said, I am a nursing student. Thank you, you wonderful nursing students, for being here. I'm a nursing student. And now I was in the audience and I heard you share Josie's story, and her story has inspired me as a nurse to never, ever be afraid to speak up for the patient, for the family. I'm a doctor, and I heard you tell Josie's story today. Her story has inspired me as a doctor to listen to my patients, to listen to the family, to listen to my nurses. So it's because of all of those emails that have been trickling in over all of these years that I continue to get on airplanes, to travel to hospitals, to tell this story one last time. What I've learned from all of this is that stories make a difference. Stories can move us as individuals. They can move us as an organization. They can inspire us. They can educate us. They can inform us. They can provide us with wisdom. So Josie was 18 months old when she was admitted to Johns Hopkins after suffering from first and second degree burns from climbing into a hot bath. My husband and I were constantly by her side. We bonded with the doctors. We bonded with the nurses at Johns Hopkins. These people, they were amazing. Neither one of us had spent much time in a hospital before, but every day we felt like we were witnessing human beings at their very best. These doctors, these nurses, they were unbelievable. They became our friends. Every morning I would get muffins for the nurses on duty, and I would walk down the big foyer at Johns Hopkins, and there were these huge, giant, blown-up posters lining the wall, one after the other. U.S. News, World Report, ranking Johns Hopkins one of the top hospitals in the country. And every day I would stand there with my muffins, and I would look at these posters, and I would watch these doctors and these nurses racing up and down the hallway. And I would say to myself, thank God we're at Johns Hopkins. Thank God we live in Baltimore. This is the best hospital. These are the smartest, the brightest doctors and nurses. Josie was healing beautifully. We were told we were going to be moved down from the PICU to the step-down unit. Josie and I were in the elevator with the nurse, and I said to the nurse, I said, oh, is it okay if we just stay in the PICU? Because I know everyone in the PICU and everyone knows me and Josie, and I like the nurse-patient ratio in the PICU better than what it's going to be down in the step-down unit. So we'll just keep our room if that's okay. And she said, Mom, they all call me Mom. She said, Mom, when you're in the hospital, you don't get to choose what unit you're on or floor, or you're going to choose your room. She said, the step-down unit, it's a good thing. It means you're going home soon. You'll be fine. So as Josie and I were in the step-down unit, I began noticing that she seemed thirsty, and she would always kind of reach out. If someone walked by with a drink, she would kind of reach out for it. And I said to the nurse on duty, I said, I think Josie needs some IV fluids or something to drink. The nurse handed me a little bowl of ice chips, and Josie had an upset stomach the day before. And she said, let's give her these ice chips, let's keep her stomach settled. So all day I fed Josie these little ice chips. That afternoon, her doctor, Chuck Pettis, came and examined Josie and said, she looks great. You guys can go home in 2 days. Let's take out her central line. She doesn't need it. The only reason she would need it would be if she needed some sort of medication quickly, and that's not going to happen. And at this point, it's only a place where an infection could occur. So Chuck took out Josie's central line. It was such a great feeling because I could pick her up, I could walk down to the cafeteria, I could walk around, I could say goodbye to my nurse friends. It was a great feeling. That evening, a nurse and I gave Josie a bath in the bathtub, and I thought it was strange because as she was in the bathtub, she was sucking furiously on a washcloth. We put her to bed that night, and I looked at her, and something didn't seem right. She looked thin to me. Her coloring looked off. Her eyes, she looked tired. She looked lethargic. She didn't look right to me. And I said to the nurse on duty, I said, I think I need to call Dr. Paytas. I think I need to call the team. Something's not right with Josie. The nurse looked at her and said, her vitals are fine. She's fine. I said, something doesn't feel right. Can someone else just come and take a look at her? Another nurse came and looked at her and said the same thing. Her vitals are fine. Go home, get some sleep, Sorrel. Don't worry. Sometimes kids get tired. They get lethargic when they've been in the hospital for a while. So I went home that night. I called 2 times throughout the middle of the night to check on Josie. Each time I was told that she was fine. I came to the hospital the next morning at 5:30 in the morning with muffins for the nurses. And I walked into Josie's room and I looked at her and I went out into the hallway and I waved down to the team. They were beginning their morning rounds. I said, can you come look at Josie? They said, Mom, we've got some other patients ahead of you. We'll be there shortly. And I had always been the mother who wanted to be the low maintenance mother, who never wanted to be demanding, who never wanted to ask too many questions. I wanted to be helpful. I wanted them to like me. I wanted them to like me so that they would give us special treatment. I wanted to be part of their team. When they told me to wait my turn, I said, no, please come now. And they came and they looked at her and I said, I know she's thirsty. She needs something to drink. They gave her a shot of Narcan. They gave her Gatorade. She drank the Gatorade. She drank more Gatorade. She kept the Gatorade down. They gave her another shot of Narcan. She was looking so much better. She was looking around. She was looking alert. She was looking great. And I asked her doctor, Chuck Paytas, I said, Chuck, Josie's not going to get that 1 o'clock dose of methadone, is she? I mean, she's clearly not in pain. Why would she get a narcotic after all of this? We're going home day after tomorrow. She's not getting that 1 o'clock dose of methadone, right? Chuck had given a verbal order for Josie not to receive the 1 o'clock dose of methadone. Josie was looking great. At 1 o'clock, a nurse came over with a syringe of methadone, and I said to her, she's not supposed to get the methadone. The nurse said, the orders have been changed. So something that I have to live with every day for the rest of my life. I stood there and I thought to myself, do I run up to that nurse and knock the methadone out of her hand and run out into the hallway and scream for help? Or do I say to myself, I'm in the best hospital in the country. These doctors and these nurses are much smarter than I am. They must have had a meeting. They must have discussed as a team that together the best thing for Josie, for medical reasons, for scientific reasons, for reasons that are way above my head, these experts must have decided together that this was the right thing to do. So I stood aside and I watched the nurse give Josie the methadone. A few minutes later, I looked at Josie and she appeared to be asleep. I tried to wake her up. She would not wake up. I screamed for help. The nurse came running over and was pushing buttons. And the next thing I knew, doctors and nurses with metal trays and metal carts came rushing into the room. They surrounded her bed. They put me out into the hallway. I looked through the glass window and it was complete and utter chaos. They put me in a room with the chaplain. The next time I saw Josie, they took me back up the set of stairs, back up into the PICU, and I walked into Josie's room and I looked at her lying in the bed and she had tubes and things coming out of every single part of her body, surrounded by and hooked up to machines. And the doctors and the nurses stood by her bed and they could hardly look me in the eye. And with every strength of energy I could find, I walked in there and I said to them, I'm here to help you. Whatever you need, whatever it takes, tell us what you need us to do. If you need us to fly a specialist in from around the world, we will make that happen right now. If you need us to donate our organs, we will do that right now. If you need us to find organs, we will do that right now. You tell us what it takes, we will do it. And I said, you did this to her, now you need to fix her. Because Josie's siblings are at home right now blowing up balloons for the welcome home celebration day after tomorrow. We are going home. They told us that we needed to pray. The next morning, a team of neurologists came and examined Josie. They told my husband, Tony, and I that she had no brainstem function, she would not survive. And I said, well, she will survive because we'll wait for the miracle. And I know miracles happen every day in hospitals. And I was just in the hallway talking to another mother. She told me she had a miracle, so you need to make the miracle happen. They said there will be no miracles. She's completely brain dead. It's just a question of time before all of her organs shut down. That evening, Josie's siblings, Jack, Relly, and Eva, were brought down to the hospital. We said goodbye to Josie. She was taken off with life support. So within 24 hours, we had gone from planning a welcome home celebration to planning a funeral. Our lives were completely turned upside down. Two new, raw emotions had completely overpowered us. One was grief, and the other was the most inexplainable, indescribable, burning anger you could ever possibly imagine. Now, the thing with Josie's death, like so many deaths from medical errors, is that she didn't die from a doctor's mistake or a nurse's mistake or a misplaced decimal point or an incorrect medication. She died from something so simple and so basic that for the days and the weeks after Josie died, I would pace up and down the hallways of my house, shaking my head over and over again, saying to myself, I could have prevented this. I saw this happening every step of the way. She died from a breakdown in the system. She died from a breakdown in communication. What if the residents had noticed that her weight had dropped significantly in 24 hours? What if she had been given a drink of water? What if she had been hooked up to an IV? What if she had not received the methadone? What if, and this is something I learned years later, what if those nurses who had actually been concerned and had actually gone up the chain of command to express their concern, what if they had tried a little bit harder to be listened to? What if the pain management team had tried a little bit harder to listen, to hear what it was those nurses were trying to say? What if there had been patient safety programs in place? What if there had been a rapid response team in place? What if someone had taken their eyes off of their computer screens and off of the clipboards and looked at the patient lying in the bed? What if one person had listened to the mother? I think if just one of those very simple things had happened, just one of them, that maybe Josie would be alive today. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Joint Commission states that over 75% of all Sentinel events are due to a breakdown in communication. That's that that one statistic that I think about every single time I get on another airplane to leave my family another time, to go to another hospital to tell this story. And I've been thinking for over all of these years that I've been doing this, communication. This should be so easy. All we have to do is listen to each other. All we have to do is speak up. All we have to do is listen to the patient, listen to the family, listen to the doctors, the nurses. All we have to do is communicate with each other. But what I've been told over all these years by people much smarter than me is that what we are talking about, this culture, and changing the culture in the healthcare industry is a very, very difficult thing to do and will take years. A few weeks after Josie died, the head of the Children's Center, a man by the name of Dr. George Dober, came to our house and he sat down with Tony and me. And he said, "I'm so sorry. This happened under my watch. I take full responsibility for this. This should never have happened. This is a sentinel event. We have a team investigating what went wrong. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We are going to fix this. This will never happen again. We are all devastated at Hopkins. We are sorry." And we said, "Thank you very much. You'll be hearing from our lawyers." Our goal was to hire the most powerful law firm we could find to destroy Johns Hopkins. We interviewed lawyers from Washington, D.C. up to Baltimore. And I really liked the Washington, D.C. law firm because they were big and they were powerful. And they had a big, huge conference room with a big, huge conference table. And all of their people sat around the table and they all listened to us tell the story. They took their little notes and they had their little conversations. And I knew that if we chose that law firm, I knew that it would be a bloodbath. I kept my mouth shut. 8 months later, Johns Hopkins invited us down to their big conference room with their big conference table and all of their people with their stacks and stacks of papers from their big, huge investigation. And Tony and Paul Beckman and myself sat on the other side of that table. And they offered us a settlement. They offered us money. And I have to tell you, the thought of accepting their money was almost as disgusting and as despicable as them offering us that money. We felt that if we were to take their money for the death of our daughter, it would be like letting them off the hook. It would be accepting what they had done. It would be moving on. So we decided not to sign the papers, not to take the money. The papers sat there. A couple days went by, a couple weeks went by, and our lawyer, Paul Beckman, began to realize, oh my God, this family's gonna walk away from this. He came over to our house one night and he sat down with us and he said, "You can walk away from this. And this money will get sucked up into the insurance company and nothing will happen. Or you can sign these papers right now. You can take this money right now. Money is power. You can use this money to do something positive for Josie. You can use this money to help other people." And the light bulb went off in our heads. We said, yes, let's give the money to the Ronald McDonald House. Let's give the money to children who have cancer. Let's give the money to the New Children's Center. We knew we wanted to do something with hospitals and sick children. But there was a question that was kind of going on in the back of my head, and I could never quite figure out the answer to the question. So the day that we signed the papers, I picked up the phone and I called Rick Kidwell, the risk manager at Hopkins. I said, "Rick, this is Sorrel. I have a question for you." He said, "Mrs. King, you can't be contacting me. Only your attorney can be contacting me." I said, "Well, we just signed the papers. It's all over." He said, "Well, I'm going to have to put you on hold for a moment." And he put me on hold and he called Paul Beckman on the other line and they had their little conversation. Then he came back to me on the other line with a complete personality transformation. And I said, "Rick, Josie's death from medical errors, that was a fluke. That was a rare occurrence. That was like a strike of lightning. Patients don't die from medical errors, right? He said 98,000 patients die every year from medical errors. It's the fourth leading cause of death in the country. It's like a jumbo jet crashing every day. I said, Rick, I am fairly educated. I've never heard any of this before. How come I don't know this? Do people know this? I don't think people know about this. He said, people don't talk about this issue. Hospitals, they don't talk about it. Patients and families, they don't talk about it because they're either dead or they're too grief-stricken or they're in the middle of a nasty lawsuit. People don't talk about this. And I said, well, Rick, then I'm going to talk about it. I am going to tell every single person I meet what you and Johns Hopkins did to my daughter. And he sort of paused and he said, you know, Sorrel, you actually should talk about it. You should actually come down in October and present here at Johns Hopkins at Grand Rounds and share this story. Because there are people here at this hospital that don't even know that this happened. I said, well, Rick, obviously I'm unstable, and obviously that was more obviously a threat than anything else. And he said, Sorrel, they don't want to hear it from me, the risk manager, anymore. They need to hear it from the patient, from the family. So, long story short, after that little meeting with my new friend, Ricky Kidwell, we knew exactly what we were going to do with the money. We were going to create a foundation. We were going to call it the Josie King Foundation. Our mission was pure and simple. Our mission was to prevent, I only have 3 slides. Our mission was to prevent patients from being harmed or killed by medical errors. And so there I sat with my little mission statement on a little index card taped to the wall and behind my computer. And my husband Tony had gone back to work, and then I sat there and said, why did we set this up? I don't know a thing about the healthcare industry. I don't know a single person in the healthcare industry. How will I ever be able to make a difference? A friend of mine had told me about a doctor by the name of Peter Pronovost. Many of you may know who Peter Pronovost is. Peter Pronovost, back then, and still is, an anesthesiologist at Johns Hopkins who was passionate about patient safety. Since Josie's death, his star has risen. He's become one of the most recognizable people in the world for his work in this. And yes, he's no longer at Hopkins. But back then, he was there and he was passionate about this. He and I talked on the telephone. He said, Sorrel, why don't I come over and meet with you and Tony? And I'll never forget the day he rang the doorbell and I opened the door and I looked at him. And for those of you who know what Peter Pronovost looks like, he looks like he's 30 years old. And I looked at him and I said, I'm so sorry, I'm unstable. And I thought you were much older, much more experienced. I need an older, experienced man doctor to help me. He convinced me that we were exactly the same age. He came in, he sat down, he talked to Tony and to me about something called CUSP, Comprehensive Unit-Based Safety Program. It was about culture. It was about communication. It was about teamwork. It was about coming to work every single day, saying to ourselves, how will the next patient be harmed? It was about coming to work and finding those little patient safety issues, those errors, those near misses. I prefer the word good catches. Reporting them. I prefer the word sharing them. Sharing those good catches, those near misses, and learning from them. It was about preventing the holes in the Swiss cheese from lining up and harming the patient. It was about preventing those little patient safety issues from turning into incidents and harming the patient. We said, Peter, we understand this. We believe in this. How much money do you need? We gave him a pile of money from the Josie King Foundation, from the settlement. We created 2 Josie King pediatric patient safety programs based off of CUSP on the 2 floors where Josie had been cared for. Not long after setting that up, Rick Kidwell followed through with his invitation to have me come speak at Hopkins at Grand Rounds in the famous wood paneled Heard Hall. And there was standing room only. People were standing in the balcony. They were sitting on the floor. And I stood behind that podium, and I was so scared. And some of the very people who had taken care of Josie were sitting right there in front of me. And as much as I wanted to lash out at them and tell them how sad I was and how angry I was at them, I knew that if I told them how I really felt, that they would walk out of that room shaking their heads, saying, that poor woman has lost her mind. Instead, I stood there behind that podium with my 9 little index cards, and I told myself, do not cry. And I reached out to them, and I said, can we partner together? Can we create patient safety programs together? I don't know anything about the healthcare industry, but the one thing that I do know is that Johns Hopkins is the best. And maybe if Johns Hopkins does something, then maybe all the other hospitals from all around the country will look to see what the God Almighty Johns Hopkins is doing, and maybe they will do the same thing. Not long after that Grand Rounds, Peter came to me and he said, Sorrel, come with me to Boston and share your story at an IHI conference. I said, Peter, I can't go with you to Boston. I don't even know what IHI means. He said, Institute for Healthcare Improvement. There will be 300 doctors and 300 nurses from all around the country there. This is your one chance to get Josie's story beyond the 4 walls of Johns Hopkins. So I went with Peter to Boston and I shared this story. And a man happened to be filming the story in the back of the room. And I came home at the end of the day and I turned on my computer and those little emails started trickling in. I'm a doctor from Akron Children's in Ohio. I heard you share Josie's story today. Do you have a transcript? Do you have a video? I want to take your message back to my hospital. I'm a doctor from Baptist Health in Miami. I heard you tell Josie's story today. I want to take your message back to my hospital. Do you have a transcript? Do you have a video? And of course I said, I don't have things like that. I just have a few index cards. A few weeks after the event, a big box came in the mail. And in the big box, there were 20 VHSs. You little young people don't even know VHSs. But all those people do know VHSs. 20 VHSs titled Josie's Story. And the doctor who sent them said, Sorrel, any hospital that wants these, send them this video. And in return, you should ask for a donation. And I thought to myself, I said, a donation for the foundation? Is it $12 or $15 for shipping and handling? He said, Sorrel, there's something you need to know about the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry spends a lot of money on educational videos, and that's exactly what this is. He said, you should suggest a donation of $250 to $1,000 and let each organization decide which amount they would like to donate. This DVD has been translated into 3 different languages. This DVD has been in existence for over 15 years. It has been shipped to big hospitals, little hospitals, law schools, medical schools, nursing schools. The aviation industry is using this DVD. What this DVD has taught me over all these years is that sometimes it takes more than data, more than PowerPoint presentations, more than statistics. Sometimes it takes a real life story to change the way we think. The DVD has brought in hundreds and thousands of dollars into the foundation over all these years. The money comes in from the healthcare industry, and it goes right back out into the healthcare industry in the form of these projects and these programs. The worst part of my job at the Josie King Foundation is when I get handed the IKEA bag filled with these DVDs, and the demand for this DVD has never declined, even after all these years. And I get handed the IKEA bag with all the DVDs, and I have to go to the post office, and I have to rotate to the different post offices in Baltimore because you're only supposed to have like 10 parcels, and I come in with 15 and 20 and 30 of these things that need to be shipped. And I can just feel and I let people go in front of me at the post office because they're just buying one book of stamps. And then I'm holding up the line, and I can feel the arrows of hatred shooting into my back. And I just turn around and give a little speech. It's why they should be appreciative of what I am doing for them. I'm not shipping my handmade earrings to Macy's. The DVD it just continues to go on and on and on. I'm going to talk really fast. I'm going to rattle through a couple of these programs that I might jump around. And all of them are simple. All of them are about culture, communication, patient and family-centered care. All of them are being used in hospitals all around the country. Each of them is a direct result from Josie's death. I've never heard of a rapid response team until a few years ago when I was invited to Orlando at the annual IHI Patient Safety Conference, which I know many of you guys are familiar with. I've been going to this conference over the years, and every year this conference kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this one particular year, there were 5,000 healthcare professionals from all around the world. And when I checked into the conference, someone said, Sorrel, Don Berwick, who you all know was the head of IHI, wants to meet with you. So I went down and I met with Don Berwick in the room with the 5,000 chairs and the big, huge stage and the TV screens. It was the biggest room I'd ever been in. He said, Sorrel, tomorrow I'm launching a campaign, the Save 100,000 Lives campaign. And I'm going to have so-and-so and so-and-so. And he listed 6 people on stage with me. And I want you to be on stage with us. And I said, Don, I know who all of those people are. They're like the most important people in the healthcare industry. I don't belong up there. I don't understand what you people are even talking about. I won't even know what I'm supposed to say. He said, you can say whatever you want to say. So that next morning, as I sat on that stage, and I listened to Don Berwick as he stood behind that podium, and he reached out to his 5,000 healthcare professionals from all around the world. And he was so brilliant. He was so passionate. I could feel the beginning of a movement. And he talked about how together they were going to partner, and how together they were going to prevent 100,000 patients from being harmed or killed by medical errors. And I could feel the shift in the room. I could feel the energy. And then he started talking about the boards and the planks and the steps on how they were going to achieve this goal. And most of it was completely over my head. But he started talking about something called a rapid response team. A team of fresh eyes. A team of healthcare professionals with various different backgrounds who have not been looking at the patient 24/7. A team of people who come to that bedroom, who come to that and look at that patient and assess what needs to happen. And as I listened to him talk about this rapid response team, I began to realize, oh my God, that's the cure. That would have prevented Josie from dying. He passed the microphone to each of the people on the stage, and they each stood up and they said, we endorse this campaign. We endorse this campaign. And then he passed the microphone to me. And I said, Don, do you think a patient, do you think a family member, do you think we could ever call a rapid response team? And I didn't really hand him back the microphone. And I kind of stepped to the edge of that stage because every single one of the 5,000 people in that room, they all knew Josie's story inside out. And I said to that audience, I said, I would have called 3 times. The night I put her to bed, the morning I walked into her room, the minute the nurse walked in with the methadone, I would have called those 3 times. That team, they would have come. They would have looked at Josie lying in the bed, and they would have said, that little girl needs water, and maybe she'd be alive today. And then I said to that audience, I said, it's not about me and the Josie King story anymore. It's about all those other patients and all those other families who I've been talking to over all these years. And these people keep telling me the same thing over and over again, that same common thread. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing they didn't listen common thread. There was a teeny bit of clapping in the back of the room, and it was not an applause kind of clapping. It was a we hear you kind of clapping. Long story short, fast forward, a few weeks after that, Tammy Merriman, University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, JD side called and said, Sorrel, we are going to create a patient and family activated rapid response team. We want you to be a part of it. So I got on a little airplane and I went up to Pittsburgh and I sat down with Tammy and her team of nurses and with my little piece of paper, my little notebook and my little pencil. And there were lots of hurdles, there were lots of barriers. One of which was, how are we going to prevent the patient and the family from calling when they drop the remote control on the floor, or when the food tastes bad, or when the nurse has a funny look on her face? The answer is, you educate the patient, you educate the family, you make it crystal clear how to call and when to call. The other little barrier that I noticed, and this is something I see in hospitals all around the country, and I'm sure this does not pertain to this wonderful hospital here, but this is all those other hospitals up there that I deal with. How these nurses were being challenged, how are we going to get the physicians, the doctors on board with a program like this? What I've learned from some amazing nurses from all around the country is that sometimes it takes that one nurse, that one person who believes that this is what the patient deserves, this is what we need to have happen. UPMC Shadyside kicked it off, Josie King Foundation gave them a bunch of money. A year later, Children's Hospital decides to kick it off. I never say no to a children's hospital, gave them a bunch of money. A year after that, UPMC decided all 12 hospitals would implement, they call it Condition H, would implement Condition H. I said, I can't give you any more money, you're gonna have to go get your own money. They did. They brought me out for the big, the night before the big kickoff. And I had dinner with a group of nurses the night before. And I love having dinner with nurses because nurses always tell me the real scoop on everything. And I said, how's it really going? They said, it's great. We love it. We've got doctors on board. Leadership is behind it. Patients and families love it. Everyone loves it. But, we're kind of waiting. We're kind of hoping that we haven't had a big event. Like, we haven't had a big event at all. And I said, what's the big event? They said, the We Saved Your Life big event. And all night I thought about the big event. And here's what I said the next morning about the big event, and here's what I say to all of you about the big event. In Josie's case, there would have been no big event. They would have given her water. Who cares about the big event? I believe, and hospitals will back me up when I ask you this question. Can just the existence of a program like this, if done correctly, can it change the culture in a hospital, in a unit, on a floor? The answer is yes, it does. Because the next time that mother, that patient says to that doctor, that nurse, I'm scared, something's wrong, I need help, that doctor, that nurse, they're going to stop. They're going to slow down. They're going to take their eyes off of the computer screen, take their eyes off of the clippers. They're going to pause. They're going to look at that patient lying in the bed. They're going to listen to that mother one more time, because they know that if they walk out of that room, that mother, that patient, they will pick up the phone and call a rapid response team. Hospitals all around the country, they're implementing this. They all call it they all have different names for it. I'm not one to walk into any hospital and say, oh, this is what you should do. I'm not an expert on any of this. But the one thing that I do know, 100% believe, is that this will never work unless the culture is really ready. In my book, I write about this. And I get lots of letters from people, patients, and they say, oh, I love that idea of a conditioned patient family activated rapid response team. I was in the hospital. I sure wish I could have called one, but I didn't even know my hospital had it. because it was on a piece of paper in number 10 font on a sign in the bathroom. Sometimes I get a teeny bit frustrated with hospitals. You guys don't do this, but other hospitals do it. Who implement these projects and implement these programs to check the box, or because someone is shoving it down their throat. This will never ever work unless the culture's ready. Unless every nurse is saying we have got to have this. Unless leadership is hurry up, let's get the job done. Unless patients and doctors are saying we need this. That's when the culture is ready. That's when you do it. And when you do it like you mean it. Then it will work. I'm going to just skip over to disclosure for a second. A few years after Josie died, a reporter came to me and said, I am going to do a series of articles on the patient safety movement and Johns Hopkins and the Josie King story. So for 6 months, this reporter followed me around the country to meetings, and then went to like my kids' soccer games with me, and it was weird and awkward and not very enjoyable. And then the reporter had to interview every single person at Hopkins who had taken care of Josie. And the Hopkins PR department said, no, we're not going to participate in that. So I had to call up the PR department and talk to them, and I said, look, this is going to be a series of really positive articles. This is not going to be a slaughter piece. This is going to be great publicity for you guys. This is going to be positive. This is going to be good for you guys. I had no idea what I was saying. I was just making it up as I was going along. And then I said, you need to do this because I'm doing this, and you owe me a favor. That reporter interviewed every person who had taken care of Josie, except for one doctor refused to cooperate. The articles came out. Hopkins was very pleased. A few weeks after the articles came out, I got a letter in my mailbox. And I opened the letter, and it was a long, handwritten letter from the doctor who had refused to be interviewed. It was the doctor who had changed the methadone order. And as I read her letter, I could feel her pain, her remorse, her search for forgiveness, and it struck me like a bolt of lightning that day. It was the first time I realized, in the 2 years since Josie had died, I realized, oh my God, they didn't mean to harm her. They are in pain. They are suffering. So as I traveled around the country, I would talk to doctors and nurses, and I would find risk managers, and I would talk to them, and I would say, what do you do to help your caregivers who have been involved in an adverse event? And I would talk to nurses and doctors, and I would find these risk managers in the bathroom and in their offices, and going down the escalators, and up and down the elevators, and then down to the cafeteria. I would track them down. And they would say, well, they come to me, and we talk about it. And if, and I help them. And if I'm really worried, I send them to talk to so-and-so. And I realize these risk managers maybe have law degrees, but probably not psychiatry degrees. The more and more people I talk to, the more I realize that there was absolutely nothing in the healthcare industry at that time to help the second victim. Josie and I are the first victim. You all are the second victim. And if the second victim is not being supported and not being cared for and is under stress and in pain, then we will have a whole nother slew of massive issues on our hands. The Josie King Foundation realized there was nothing happening in the healthcare industry. We decided we'd take a bunch of money, put the money into some research based off the work of a famous psychiatrist by the name of James Pennebaker. He did amazing work with prisoners on the benefits of therapeutic expressive writing, which I'm a huge believer in. The results came back from the prisoners, and it was amazing, amazing results. We just said, wow, it's amazing how it works with the prisoners. Maybe, I bet it'll work, if it works with the prisoners, it'll definitely work with the nurses. So we wanted to solve all the nurse problems from all around the country. We wanted to solve all the nurse problems. And even though I am a pretend nurse, no one at the foundation is a nurse. We had no idea what it actually like to be a real nurse. So we said this project was going nowhere. It was falling flat on its face. We sent an email, we reached out to all of our nurse friends from all around the country. And we said, how do you deal with the stress of being involved in an adverse event. How do you deal with the stress of being a nurse? Nurses from all around the country partnered with us. We partnered with Georgetown University. We partnered with James Pennebaker. We created this wonderful, awesome thing called the Nurses Journal. This is a big during Nurses Week. This is a simple little tool to help nurses deal with stress. This has been such a hit that we now have a Caregivers Journal, which has recently just come out. This all falls under the Care for the Caregiver program. Another thing we created a couple years ago, we gave a bunch of money to Hopkins to create something called RISE, Resiliency in Stressful Events. It's basically, like we were talking about this morning, a rapid response team for the second victim. I don't have time to even talk about that, but it's a good thing. It's being used in hospitals around the country, but Johns Hopkins is charging like $20,000 for it. But I'm like just taking the information and stealing it from them because I gave them the money to do it, so I'm just giving it to my hospital. And I will never give them another. Another part of the Care for the Caregiver, and this is something that, I travel to all these hospitals. This is one thing that I see everywhere I go. Caregivers are tired, they're burnt out, they're stressed, and we all know about mindfulness and bringing joy and meaning back to the workplace, but I really believe with all of my heart that it is such an important thing. So the Josie King Foundation, we're working on something called the Happiness Project. I don't have time to talk about it, but it's whatever. It's hopefully will help caregivers. Sometimes friends of mine will come to me and they'll say, Sorrel, my father's going into the hospital, what do I do? And I say, you take a legal pad and you write every single thing down and you do not leave the bedside. And then I realized, the Josie King Foundation, we must help patients and families when they go to the hospital. We must give patients and families a little awesome journal called the Care Journal, and we will have 6 little steps on how to stay safe, things to pay attention to, and then we'll have 30 pages of prompts. Parking place. Write your parking place down. I got lost every single night in the middle of the night in downtown Baltimore looking for my car. Medical team on duty. Write everyone's names down. It's so important to know the names of our wonderful caregivers who are caring for us. Daily goals. You all talk about your daily goals. Tell us, what's our goal for the day? Talk to us. Is it to walk around the unit? Is it to get the potassium level down? Medications, surgeries, procedures, tests, diet. Most important, questions to ask. My team, they're coming on rounds in a few hours. I have 3 questions. I'm going to write down my 3 questions now so that I'm super organized for when they get here. Thoughts. I've got to pick up a gallon of milk on my way home tonight. I printed 10,000 of these. I took a handful of these to a group of nurses and I had dinner with them and I passed them around and I said, don't you love it? Isn't it awesome? Won't your patients and families love it when we give it to them? And they looked at it and they looked at me and they had these dull expressions on their faces. And I said, how can you not like this? They said, well, sometimes we feel uncomfortable when we see patients and families writing things down and documenting things. And sometimes we see it as a potential documentation for a lawsuit. And sometimes we call them scribblers. And I said, well, what do you do? What do you all do when your loved one's in the hospital? What do you do? They said, well, we keep track of everything. I realized that this could not be a gift from me and the foundation to the patient and the family. This had to be from the hospital, from the nurse, from that unit manager to the family, to that patient. This is just a simple little thing, but this is more than a little notebook. This is a symbol of trust. Hospitals, they put their special little logo right here, this little place that I designed, and they slap it on top of the Josie King logo, because I know you people love your little logos. They put their little logo right here, and it says, welcome to Duke Medical Center. This is a gift from us to you. We encourage you to partner with us in your care. We encourage you to be a part of our team. We encourage you to speak up and ask questions. This is being used all around the country. This is the 30-day. I know you people want us in and out in under 7 days. This is the mini. And if you go, you're out, and I know you're tired of it. You're not going to get tired of the buses. You're going to wrap this up. It's 11:30 already. But it's an app. It's a free app. It's being used in countries all around the world, and it's a way for patients and families to keep track of their own informal set of medical records. So now when your loved one's in the hospital and you come home at the end of the day and someone says, how's everything? You say, I'm too tired to talk to you. You just push the send button. This is just a wonderful, simple, awesome little tool. All of this is just a way for hospitals and patients and families to join together. You all have your degrees and your diplomas and your outfits and your all the knowledge and all the control, and we're just that patient, that family member in that room scared out of our minds. This is a way to bridge that disconnect, to build that trust. This is a way for you to say to us, partner with us. I think it's time for me to wrap this up, but I'm just going to talk about one other little simple kind of thing. One thing, out of all of my journeys to all these hospitals all around the country over all of these years, there are a couple trends that I noticed, a couple things that every single hospital seems to be dealing with. One of which is, for instance, how do we encourage our caregivers? We're having a hard time encouraging our caregivers to speak up, to report, share good catches, near misses, the whole error reporting thing. I see lots of hospitals do different things. I've heard CEOs stand up and say, we are an open, transparent organization. Everyone in this organization feels very comfortable speaking up. And then I'm talking to a group of nurses, and that's so not true. Hospitals all around the country, they do different things. Memorial Fairbanks in Alaska, they have the good catch of the month. For their best good catch of the month, they give that person a parking place at the front of the hospital, which is very nice in the winter in Alaska. A hospital in Texas, they give a Starbucks gift card for the best good catch of the month. Other hospitals give lanyards and other things. And I've always been frustrated by this because I think this is so important. And I know, unfortunately, in the culture that exists in these hospitals, is that it actually takes a real hero to be brave enough to speak up about the things that are wrong within that unit on that floor. We decided that we were going to create something called the Josie King Good Catch Hero Award. It's a beautiful piece of actual, real, attractive artwork. I can't stand to, sorry, but you people sometimes have ugly awards on the inside. This is a beautiful piece of artwork. This is like the 4th level. We've gone through a number of iterations. It's all different shade of color and stuff. It is a wonderful thing. There's Peter Pronovus. He got the very first Good Catch Hero Award. There he is. We're the same age. His teeth are whiter. He has fewer wrinkles. There you go. Hold on. There's the award. It's awesome. It's beautiful. I'm going to send you guys one because I want you. There's the Josie King thing. Hospitals all around the country have partnered with us because they want to create that culture where people feel comfortable and they want to recognize, reward, award these people who are brave enough for to share these good catches, these near misses. And it's not about parties. It's not about that cake. You have the budget for that cake. Why not waste your money? It sounds silly. It sounds queer. It sounds gimmicky. The balloons and the flowers and the cakes and the awards. But what it's about is about what's happening in that picture. It's about leadership coming together once a month for a half an hour to go to that unit, to that floor, to recognize that person who was brave enough to stand up and find that good catch, that near miss. And these good catch stories, they are unbelievable. I have hundreds of these good catch stories because they all come to me, and they are powerful, and they are shared throughout the entire organization. That's the kind of stuff that I think, simple things that can help move an organization. Now, I'm going to wrap this up, but in the book, I wrote that book for a number of reasons. I wrote it to raise awareness. I wrote it for my children. I wrote it for anyone who's ever suffered loss and disappointment. And I wrote it to raise awareness because I still don't think people still understand the magnitude sometimes of what we've been talking about. We've been talking about this for so many years, and it's not moving fast enough, or at least not fast enough for me. Right before the book came out a couple of years ago, my editor called and said, Sorrel, Good Housekeeping really likes the book, and they're going to put a 5,000-word excerpt in their October edition of the magazine, and there's gonna be some color photos, and this is really great. And I said, Good Housekeeping, it's not my favorite magazine. Do you think we should pitch it to Vogue? She said, Good Housekeeping has 12 million people who subscribe. Vogue has 2 million people. Good Housekeeping reaches the middle of America. That is your audience. She could never have been more right. Over all of these years, I get every April, every May, I get letters from students in manila envelopes. This is the most wonderful thing. This is like Christmas for me in the spring. Manila envelopes that come into my mailbox, and all these little letters in the mailbox, and they're from students. And they say, my teacher made us read the Good Housekeeping article, and then my teacher made us read the Josie King story, and then our assignment was to write me, a reflection letter on how Josie's story is going to affect me as a future caregiver. I have hundreds of these reflection letters, and they are so powerful. We took this concept, we partnered with Duke Medical Center. We realized this book was being used as an educational tool. We partnered with them, we created this little curriculum. I'm not going to talk about it, but the premise is simple. Facts provide us with knowledge. Stories provide us with wisdom. This story continues to go on and on. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank all of you for everything you do every day. You walk through the doors of this hospital for taking care of those patients and those families because they are scared. There are lots of threads in everything that I just said. The whiny thread, the anger thread, the grief thread, the search for religion thread, the search for forgiveness thread, lots and lots of threads. But the most important thread is, and this is the only thing I hope you take back with you to your units and your floors, is that thread of taking loss and disappointment, no matter how big it is or small it is. It might be death, it might be divorce, it might be bankruptcy, it might just be a bad day on the job. But taking that loss and disappointment or finding those things on our units and our floors that we could fix, and instead of saying, I can't fix that, someone else will fix that, that's not gonna harm anyone, my hospital can't afford to fix that. I ask that we find these things, and we make them better. Because if you can turn this around, and sometimes you have to sit and stew and rot in the pain and the discomfort and the bad things, but if you can turn it around slowly to help someone else, it becomes this big circle that kind of goes around and around. So a psychiatrist once told me that when there's like a call to action, if nothing happens in 3 weeks, then it'll never happen. So I ask you to give yourselves 3 weeks to figure out where can we as individuals, where can we as an organization take our patient safety work, our quality work to the next level. Don't have me fly back to Baltimore after 2 flights, probably gonna maybe crash or drinking 25 Bloody Marys. Don't let me be here just to be some little cheerleader. Let me know in my mind when I fly home tonight that I know that something good is gonna continue to happen. You guys are gonna continue this great work. I know Dennis is working hard. I know all of you guys are working hard. I guess that's it, but thank you so much for listening to me, and thanks for having me here, and please keep up the great work, and happy March.
For those of you who do not know me, I'm Dennis Cook. I'm the Executive Director of Quality at UNMH. We're very proud to have you here, hear your message. I want to make sure that everybody takes from here that we are all partners in patient safety. We're all responsible for patient safety, speaking up, making sure that our patients are safe. So I encourage everyone to speak up for patient safety, be a champion for patient safety. We do not want a Josie story at our organization to get us there. We got to get this right. Okay? We want to present to you a gift bag. This is a t-shirt pin with UNMH, UNM logo. So I do want to say, So Josie's gonna, Sorrel's going to be at the table for a meet and greet, and if you have a book, she'll sign it. I'll ask that you let her exit first, and then we'll exit, and you can spend some time chatting with her. And, thank you so much. Okay, everyone.